So one of the biggest misconceptions that I see a lot of both people in management as well as people doing the direct work go through is the confusion of overwhelmed with burnout. So to start off, clarification, overwhelmed is when you just got a lot more stuff, a lot more in quantity, a lot more in difficulty, a lot more in just a new task that you've never taken on before, but you've got a bunch of stuff that's making you feel like you're in over your head. Versus burnout, which is basically you struggle to find the motivation to get out of bed in the morning if you know that you have to go to work, or if you know that you have to have a conversation with someone, or continue working on a certain project. So overwhelmed is just like, oh my god, this is a lot of new shit that I'm not used to, versus burnout, which is I just can't go on anymore with this. And obviously it's established that burnout is a bad thing because no one wants to feel burnt out. No one wants to burn out people on their team because basically when people are burnt out, they're checked out, both mentally as well as, ability-wise. They're just not going to try to do their best, and they just, sometimes physically can't. So burnout is obviously something that people want to avoid at all costs. However, they get so worried about people getting burnt out that as soon as people start to feel a little overwhelmed, they'll just immediately pull back and hit the brakes. Like, oh, you're feeling overwhelmed? Then I better stop, because that's the limit to what you can safely handle. That would be pretty successful in avoiding burnout. You're not doing that person any favors, because when you're stopping them every single time that they feel challenged, you're basically stopping them from growing and developing. Like, you're not going to get better if you stop as soon as it becomes uncomfortable. Like, that's how you grow out of your comfort zone, is you take on new challenges, you try new things, you take on more work, you do stuff that you're not used to. That's what the overwhelming feeling is. And what you need to realize, the feeling of being overwhelmed is a good thing. That's your brain saying, hey, this is more stuff than we're used to. So if you sit in that overwhelmed position where you're taking on a lot of new stuff, your brain will eventually acclimate to that higher quality, that higher quantity, these new types of projects that you're not used to. That's good. That's called development. If you stop someone, or if you stop yourself as soon as you're like, oh man, this is out of my element, I better pull back, you're basically going to stay in your box. And while everyone else is growing and developing, you're going to stay underperforming that entire time because you never want to do something that's not comfortable for you. And so that's where you really need to decide, how ambitious do you want to be? If you have big ambitions, you have big goals, you have big dreams, you need to push yourself and go past that uncomfortable point. Don't hit the point of burnout, like where you physically can't go on anymore, but go as close to that point as you can get, because the more overwhelmed of a feeling that you can have while still kind of maintaining your mental health, the more you're going to develop, the more you're going to experience, the more you're going to fail and learn, the better off you will be in the long run. If you're not wanting to be ambitious, if you're just wanting to sit in your job and ride it out for the next 20, 30, however many years, then you can avoid being overwhelmed. You can just say, like, nope, I just want these 3 responsibilities, and I just want to do day in and day out for the next however many years. It's really about what your goals are, what makes you happy, and what you're comfortable with. But you really need to understand that if you're going to avoid being overwhelmed, then you're going to avoid developing. If you want to develop, you have to do the hard stuff. You have to do the stuff that's not comfortable. You have to do the stuff that's going to push you. If you don't want to, stick with your day in and day out. But just keep that in mind. There's a huge difference between overwhelmed and burnout. Overwhelmed is you're taking on stuff that you're not used to, which is good. Being overwhelmed is a good thing. In the moment, it's going to feel like the worst, but in the end, it is great. Versus burnout's just where you can't go on anymore. No one hits burnout and is happy with it. So again, don't hit burnout, but get as close to it as you can while still maintaining your physical and mental well-being. Burnout versus overwhelmed, know the difference.